Hello, this is a tutorial to help you set up your Greek outline on proving that Greece was an advanced civilization. Over the last couple days, you've taken notes on different parts of Greece, architecture, art, education, society, etc., and you've had to work to prove that Greece was a more advanced civilization by looking at specific examples in these types of categories. So now your job is to actually take your notes and to put them into an outline. So, just as a reminder, the notes that you took were in this packet. Under 1A, you wrote down specs that work to answer these questions. And remember, a spec should be a well-defined fact that is like you put, like, for example, quotes, the fact, and then the page number at the end. Then, once you finished answering all four questions, you had to create an analysis that explained why the Parthenon, which was an architectural structure of Greece, made Greece advanced. From there, you went down to your other categories. You looked at the social structure. You answered the questions about Greek education. You took facts, you wrote down facts and specs about that, and then you had to explain why that made Greece advanced. Now, your job is to take this information from this note packet and put it into the outline. So that's where I'm going to head back to now to show you how to do that. So in the outline, you're going to notice the very first thing that appears is the thesis. The thesis that's been driving everything that you've been doing is Greece was an advanced civilization. Everything that you're doing with your analysis statements and specs is proving that this statement is correct. So the first thing that I'd like you to do is I would actually like you to take all of your specific examples on each of the categories that you have. So the first category would be architecture. And you're going to notice that I've talked about the Parthenon. And I would like you to put your Parthenon specs into the document. I want you to combine them into a well-developed sentences with citations at the end. Then the next step of what I would like you to do is to type the analysis statement that you should have fixed based on the revisions that I made. From there, you'll go on to the social structure and talk about education. And then you'll just follow the order for each of your spec sets that you've developed into well-developed sentences. You'll put your specs in and your analysis. Please leave the letter and the number one blank until you have finished typing all of your specs and analysis into the outline. Once you're done with that, then you can go on to the next step, which I'm going to talk about now. So once your specs and analysis are in, then you can go on to this step. The last step of what you're going to do is we need to create a lead in to lead the reader to understand what it is you're going to talk about. So if you remember from your note sheet, the first category that you looked at was architecture. So what we're going to do is we have to create a general statement that tells the reader that one of the things that made Greece advanced was the architecture that they created. So I've created a simple statement that introduces the category of architecture. Notice that I do not mention the Parthenon yet. I simply keep it broad. So for B, you could say something like another thing that made Greece advanced was the education system, period. Okay? So you're going to create a broad statement that introduces the category. Please use mine as a model for what to do. Then you're going to go into the one statement. The one statement's job is to introduce the specs that you have talked about. In this case, your first specs is about the Parthenon. What you have to do, though, is you need to create what's called a bias statement, or you need to give an opinion about whatever it is you're going to talk about in a way that gives me an adjective. So in this case, I said the Parthenon was a magnificent, I might say temple instead of structure. And what that tells the reader is that I think something good about the Parthenon. I'm going to lead you into explaining why it's so magnificent. So when you get down to the education system, ask yourself, what was it about the Athenian education system that made it advanced or good? And come up with a word to describe it. Maybe the education system taught boys all the skills they needed that were important for life. And then you would explain what those skills are when you go to the specs. Okay? So your B statement is introducing the category. Your one statement is introducing the specs, but you're almost creating an opinion about that specs to tell the reader what it is about the specific example and analysis that will be something positive to prove the thesis correct. Okay? So with this outline, this is practice. When you finish, I will review it and actually go over what you've done and provide feedback for you to go into the next step. I hope this tutorial helps. As always, if you need any help, don't hesitate to ask. Good luck.